Oh, welcome back. There's a woman listening right now. She's not in trouble. No one's at her door. Her kids are asleep in their beds. On the outside, everything looks fine. But earlier today, her phone buzzed. And the text message read, "You really should be careful. I'm starting to wonder if CPS would agree with how you're handling things." She stares at that screen longer than she wants to admit it. He didn't say he was calling CPS. He didn't say he had proof. He didn't say anything concrete at all. And that's the point. She types back very carefully, "What are you talking about?" And he replies, "I'm just saying people notice things. I'd hate for someone to get the wrong idea." Now her heart is racing. Not because she's done something wrong, because she hasn't, but because she knows how this works every time. And tonight she replays everything. Did I raise my voice? Did the kids hear us argue? Did I tell the teacher too much? Should I stop asking for help entirely? Should I just keep my head down? Tomorrow she cancels appointments that she needed. Next week she doesn't reach out to friends that she thought she trusted. She starts parenting smaller, living quieter, explaining less. And here's the part no one sees. Nothing ever happens. There's no call, no investigation, no report, but her life has already changed. That's what we're talking about today. Not CPS showing up, not cases being open, but how the threat alone can control someone's choices, silence their voice, and put them in a cage that no one else can see. Because abuse doesn't always come with action, sometimes it comes with a sentence, and that's enough. This is Through the Eyes of Survivors, Uncensored.
Important notice: the following content may be triggering. Viewer discretion is advised. All discussions are based on personal opinions and experiences. If you or someone you know needs help, please reach out to a local support organization. Important notice: the following.
Well, welcome back. It's time for our uncensored podcast. Amanda is here with me. And so before we get into this topic, of course, we got to plug our affiliates, our wonderful affiliates. So let's start a little backwards this time. Self Defense Keychain Store. We're proud to partner with the Self Defense Keychain Store as an official affiliate through the Eyes of Survivors. This is a woman and minority owned business that provides stylish and discreet self defense tools that are very affordable. So please check them out. Use the code Break the Silence and receive your 10% off. Also, Opus Clips is an AI driven platform helping us turn powerful podcast moments into short, impactful clips. So, Opus Clips really helps amplify our voices here and spread awareness across all our platforms. So, if you want to turn your content into scroll stopping reels and shorts, try Opus Clips with our link below. You help support the organization in that way also. And Truth Finder. It is a simple tool that helps you uncover public records, background information about people you may encounter in your life, whether you're reconnecting with someone from your past or just want to ensure people around you are trustworthy. Truth Finder provides you with the information you need to make informed decisions. It gives survivors a tool that they need to reclaim their power. That's why we're excited to share Truth Finder with you. So it helps you take control of your own security and peace of mind. Try it out, support our podcast, visit the link in the comments. And thank you for supporting our missions and staying empowered with us. So, Amanda, let's talk about this the threat of CPS, right? I know you have some personal experience in that.
I do. I do. I do. So my daughter, when she was a toddler, her and her sister got into their father's, my ex, my abuser's, Armasol. I don't know if you guys all know what that is, but that's stuff that you clean the interior of your car with. And it's very oily, but it's also very highly concentrate and very, it burns. And when this happened, we had to go get her eyes flushed. So that's what you do, obviously, when there is an issue. During this time, my ex would not allow me to go with them to get her eyes flushed. She was refusing to let me in the car, was making a scene, was making it my fault, because as they do. And so he made me believe that when he got to the hospital that he was met by CYS and that we were being open, like we had an open investigation during this time. I was like, he was bullying me to how our house needed to look, to the way I needed to do certain things. Like, he had this in my head. He had no paperwork, right? I was just believing his word, right? I spent all night, Tara, cleaning our whole entire house up to, to the point where you could have ate off our floor.
Right.
Because I was afraid that someone was going to come and take my babies away because of this incident. And I had small children. I was pregnant and I had 2 toddlers. Come to find out, this never, ever was on the table. He made it up.
Mm-hmm. And that happens way too often. I mean, there's some out there who call CPS for no reason.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's another form. But today we're talking about definitely when they, use that one line to, work against you, because that kind of abuse doesn't announce itself. It's not a direct physical thing. You can show it. They do it so underhandedly. They disguise it sometimes as a concern or a warning, and it's vague enough for them to always deny later. So and sometimes sometimes they can be very blatant about it. So there's all kinds of ends of the spectrum of that, right? And
Yes.
those that are very vague that's a master manipulator when they're using that tactic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but the
Yeah,
end
and I mean, thinking
result.
back on it, I feel very yeah. I felt really silly now thinking back on it because I was like, he didn't come home with papers. There was nothing like any follow up, no like kind of like casework, but I believed his word because I never had that happen to me before. I never knew how that process was. So if you don't know how that process works, you're not going to know the first time. The person that actually grounded me was my sister, who was a nurse that worked at that hospital and was like, that's not how that, she's like, that's not how that, like,
Yeah.
she's like, you're the mother. You would have been notified as much as him. They wouldn't have just spoke to him. They would have wanted to spoke to him. Like she's like, that's he's trying to make you upset, Amanda. But sometimes, Tara, we don't have those people to call. We don't have professional like friends or family that is in that. So sometimes they really have you by a chokehold with these empty threats.
Mhm. Well, it's designed to be that way. It's designed to keep you second guessing all your normal parenting decisions. It's designed to get you to not seek any help, to isolate yourself, to make yourself feel small, because they want you believing the narrative that they're feeding you in this way, that you are doing something wrong, you are creating a problem. And again, it's a way to isolate you and make you stay quiet, keep control, and in a way that um, it's not out there in everybody's face as to the tactics you're doing when they do that to you.
No, that's not the first time I had it happen. I mean, he used it he used it in many different angles too, not just CYS. He did other, like welfare, even cops, like making empty threats of like calling law enforcement and things that and it's funny because you would sit there in your head and you go, I know I'm not in the wrong, but this threat is making me feel like I am.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's completely normal too, because in my head, I'd be like, why do I feel this way? Because I know I didn't do anything wrong, but they make it feel so creditable and scary.
Well, of course, because they are using the ultimate tool for control, and that is your relationship with your children. And
Mm,
this can go either way, men or women that
yeah.
using this tactic. Um, and it's really insidious the way it's used, because
Gross.
um, it's about compliance, right? It keeps you kind of in this invisible cage.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
And it's a type of psychological warfare.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Because they want to scare you into some kind of submission, whether it's staying with them or not battling them while you're apart and letting them control the narrative of, because even when we and him were not together, he still had to control the narrative of how our separation was going.
Mhm.
That's why I'm laughing right now, because I didn't realize it then. And I was like, he was even trying to control the narrative of how the separation was working and how, he had no rights. So when they start to lose control, they'll find upper hand ways to scare you into submissing. And I remember like my dad, like my poor dad, and I knew that he wasn't mad at me particularly. He was mad with the situation, but he was like, come on, Amanda. Can't you see the BS he's telling you? Can't you understand that this isn't even real? Like, think of the logistics. And I would look at him like, but my brain doesn't work like yours. You know what I mean? Like, my brain doesn't work like yours. So, yes, his threats to you is BS. His threats to me are scary because we live two different lives with this man.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that we all have to understand. Victim mentalities, especially when you're not far out, you can see the BS of that person. They have been so numbed and like we are so like almost hypnotized at that moment by it that everything they say is creditable.
Mhm.
And
Well,
it's hard.
in a lot of cases, too, uh, it escalates to that next level where the call is made. And when you have somebody who is extremely charming used to getting their way.
Mhm.
Everybody can't believe that he would be the one or she. Um, they really think they're going to get away with this, and then in some cases they do. And people don't recognize, for a lot of survivors, they question, like you were saying, okay, well, yeah, this is BS on this level, but we experience that side of that person on a daily,
Mhm.
of how they are so convincing, how they are so charming, how they do get their way and manipulate and maneuver things all to their benefit. And if they have people in the right places, whether it be the court or a lawyer or a judge or somebody in a county seat or an official, then they tend to be more believed and get their way even more so.
It is. It's ooh, it is horrible when they are able to have more, and we see it more in the communities of men who are in more prominent jobs, right? Who have connections inside the community. You don't have to be a lawyer to have connections or work with a lawyer in a community. You don't have to be a police officer to have connections. I mean, my husband used to be a tow truck driver, and he knew all the police officers in his area. So these men can also be doing blue collar jobs and have the inside with you don't have to be doing all these different kind of high ends to know people and higher ups in the community. You don't.
Mhm.
And as you said, Tara, if they're charming and they work with these men, they're not seeing the abuser when they're out doing these certain, professional resources. They're seeing Billy, who, I'm sorry to use your son-in-law's name, sorry, but like, they after I said it, I was like, I don't know why I picked that name, but they're not seeing that man at home that they're seeing there. So when there are charges being pressed, or there's a protective order being placed, they're going, you sure you just didn't get out of, oh, you know what? We got in a really bad fight. I lost my temper a little bit,
Mhm.
punched the wall. I shouldn't have done that. I scared her. We're going to go to count. Then they'll go, okay, yeah, we'll talk to someone and we'll get the charges. That's
Mhm.
scary.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Well, you know, I will say this, and I hope everybody chimes in if they've had some experiences and stuff. Share it with us if you'd like to. But, you know, um, the reason it works so well is because it already exploits the fear that we naturally feel, as parents, for our children. We fear for our children. We fear, women naturally, especially women, fear judgment of our parenting skills and what other people think of us as mothers. And um, survivors have already been so worn down, they are doubting themselves at every turn. So when a system that carries a whole lot of authority or a power, is put before you as a threat or insinuated, even if nothing has happened yet, the threat doesn't have to be real. It just has to be
No.
believed. You know, statistics say that 60 to 80% of survivors seeking support describe coercive control rather than isolated incidents. And that's what this is. It's a form of coercive control. So that's
It
the thing
is.
that sticks with them.
It
That's what
is.
remembers. They remember. Mhm.
Yeah. And I mean, I have so many incidents of this. It's almost insane to me because I even had him call the police on me when we did a trade off. Um, he took my kids to go visit his family in another state, and they came back. When we opened his truck door to get him out, my son was at a stage where he called everybody dada when he was like 1.5. He called the mailman dada. He called the pizza guy dad. Well, when we opened the door, he called my boyfriend dada. And you know how that goes with abusers and any kind of narcissist. He was fit to be tied. Well, he called the cops that night and made some kind of claim of when they picked my children up a week ago that there was a hand mark on my daughter's forehead.
Mhm.
Um, the cop was completely like kind of not like laughing because he thought it was ridiculous. He's like, "Ma'am, I feel like he doesn't know your address. Does he not know your address?" I said, "No, sir." I said, "We meet at a McDonald's." He goes, "You don't need to tell me much more." He goes, he's a pistol. That's what he said on the he said. I mean, this cop, I was grateful because you don't get a lot of cops like that. I felt the cop was able to catch his BS when he called in. But I said to the cop, "Sir, we haven't had these kids all weekend." He got upset because when we opened the truck door to get my son out, he called my boyfriend Dida. And the cop was like, "Okay, that's all I need to that's all I need to know." Um, but again, that could have been a whole different thing. And there
No,
was really no repercussions, they just kind of move on. It's just, it's one of the, we have some comments over here, Tara, too, that if you want me to, but yeah, it's
yeah,
one of
we'll
those
go
things.
into some of those here in a second. But yeah, it's coercive control is definitely pattern based. It's not really incident based. And
Yeah.
uh, there are, because there's a question there about whether it's legal or not, right? And so it depends on what is happening. It's those patterns building up. I think as in general, coercive control, I think the only state that it's really illegal in custody cases is California. It's the only one right now. I think there's other states that I believe that are putting that on the table and looking into it, but California is looking at coercive control in custody cases as being illegal. It's almost um, kind of put up there with like witness tampering, that kind of level. I think is the best way I can describe it for now. But yeah, there's some other countries. I think in England and parts of I want to say Australia, um, maybe even Canada, if I'm recalling right. This that as part of their criminal laws that it's like an added charge. It's not something that they just go and charge them with immediately. It's like something that they add on with the particular charges that are illegal. It's kind of like how they a hate crime is an added charge onto something you did. So it's one of those types of things. So it adds on to like stalking. It adds on to violating protective orders and harassment, that kind of thing. So, but yes, people are starting to recognize this as a particular pattern. Um, so yeah, very good question. Um, see what else we got in the comments, Amanda.
Let me see here with Karen. I don't know. So we have Karen. My daughter's abuser was out on probation for assaulting her when he murdered her. He had been arrested over 10 times for assaulting her. Karen, we are so sorry.
Karen, I'm
That
so
that's
sorry. I understand that heartache so much because that's essentially what was going on with our daughter as well when he took her life. So our hearts go out to you, and we know how terrible that is. So,
we
what
have
else?
Tara Lynn here.
Lynn, Tara Lynn. That's my middle name too, Tara.
Hey, that's
Tara Lynn.
but also, how many times has law enforcement or COs failed the victim? A lot. I mean,
A lot.
we more than I'd like to sit here and admit.
Yeah, know that one firsthand too,
Yeah.
because there's what I have experienced with there's some really great law enforcement that really wants to be helpful, but when the system does fail, it's usually from my experience one extreme or the other. Um, they're just ignoring it and moving on and doing nothing about it, or they're putting victims in a scenario where they're kind of using them which is kind of what happened with my daughter, to try to draw out that abuser for them to be caught. But then they're putting the victim in a very dangerous place when they're doing that. And, the consequences of that can be very catastrophic. So,
Yes, unfortunately. And then we love that you guys are engaging today. Um, so how do you report this person for domestic violence when there's no physical and no mental? That Heather is a good question because I'm going to be honest with you, it's hard enough to report when it's physical
uh-huh.
because they have so much criteria they want for reports and documentation. And so when it is mental, that's when we talk about like stalking, repetitive calling. There's certain things that you can prove of that doesn't have to do physical. Like if they're harassing me through text, I know my ex would call me repetitively, like 20 times in an hour. Um, anything that has to do with kind of slaughtering your name online. Certain things that you kind of have to become your own advocate and you kind of have to become your own detective.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of have to like really, I mean, when I say keep everything documented from
Great.
screenshots to dates because no one's going to do it for you. No one. And if you go unprepared in front of court or even trying to get any kind of protective orders or anything, it's going to hurt you more than it's going to help you.
Uh-huh.
But anything that you can do, that's the key right there. And they get sloppy. They do. They get so sloppy.
They
So
will.
take advantage of that. That's my best advice from my experience because there would be times I would just step back and be like, man, he has given me so much in a handful. You know what I mean? Like he's given me so much. It's just having the courage to be able to keep those document and make sure to use it when
Yeah,
you when
because
that's okay.
unfortunately, they don't take that kind of thing seriously until it does get
No.
more into stalking or them putting your hands on you. It's sad, but
And
it's
even like when it comes to certain things, like if they slash, like I had a friend who had and it was a male. It was my best friend. He was a male. He had a girlfriend who did damage to her car, and there was no proof. Like they were so it was so, like it is what it is kind of situation. And like I kept trying to help him, and we kept trying to say, but look at these text messages and look at this, and they were just like, eh. So I mean, you really are gonna have to deal with some of that. Don't let it deter you because it's really easy because that's what they want. They want you to get deterred because they're going to be like, there's no way to prove it. She's going to get upset. No, like when they start seeing the real, like, true backbone you have, that's when they start getting scared because then you're not backing down.
yes, that's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. So you
So,
guys are really awesome for chatting with us tonight. And let me see if we got some more.
yeah,
And then Karen said abuse can be emotional, social, and financial. Absolutely.
absolutely.
Absolutely. For sure. And then I think you already answered Heather, but she said is course of control against the law. And it is in certain, I think as Tara said, they're trying to get certain states to be able
Well,
to use this when it comes to DV cases. All
yeah,
right.
and
Let's see.
yes, Lucy.
So now these days with cell phones, try to record fights in states you cannot use recordings without the consent of the other person. But at least you can start building a case against the abuse. Yeah, absolutely. There is different ways that you're able to use certain things to document. I
And that
mean,
really depends on the state you're in. The state I live in, it doesn't matter. You can
it
record
does.
as
I know certain states that they do have to. I believe I do live in a state where you have to have
notify
to
them. Hmm.
yeah, that you're being recorded, which again, then we know our phones
But
getting thrown
again,
across
it
the
can be
room.
notified, and some of them don't care. I'll tell you that right now because I
I
told
mean, so
my
whatever.
ex that on the phone when he was cussing me and threatening me, and I'm like, "Hello, I'm recording this call, so you know." And he just kept right on.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I agree. I agree. My ex would make sure that every bit of communication I had was not accessible to me when he would go into his rages. Like he would go to work and like unplug phones, computers, and put them in the back of his truck and drive away, and I'd be left with nothing. So like even if I needed 911, I could even call them with small children. Think about that. Okay, Nicole, how do you start something to get domestic violence registered or coercive control laws into action?
Okay, so
That's
this is a great question. Now,
that's a
number
great
one,
question.
we did a podcast 2 weeks ago about Tennessee now has that. And because Tennessee has set a precedent, it's not the greatest, but it's a start. You can cite what Tennessee is doing and send it to your legislature and start with your state representatives going, we need, because once the states start circling around, eventually it may turn into something federal, and we really need one that's federal, not just statewide.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
right,
Because they can move. They can move,
they can go to
right?
another state and start.
Right. They're like, oh, I was
Yeah.
found out here, so got to go on to my new life. Yeah.
And again, since California has set a precedent on coercive control, you can use that. So find that legislative language and contact your legislatures, and don't stop your particular legislature, because I know I've been through this process a million times. They may poo-poo you, the one that represents you, but that doesn't mean someone else in your state won't listen. So just keep going till you find that somebody, and officials turn over eventually. Someone leaves or they get booted out through an election, and you go to the new person, and you start over, because eventually someone's going to hear you. Ask those questions, like this is an election cycle. Go to those town halls and ask them before the primaries important questions like this about how they feel and where they stand on that. Ask
Absolutely.
them in their Facebook feeds. They all got them. Almost every one of them, especially if they're new and coming up, they've got them. Ask them. Ask them straight out how they feel about those certain things.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. Absolutely. So we're going to take a mid-roll break real quick and be right back. We're going to play a video about if you would like to become a volunteer at Break the Silence here. So volunteers make everything possible here at Break the Silence. And we are definitely empowered by our team because they show up. And so we believe survivors deserve to be heard and supportive. And if you believe that and want to join our team, then consider volunteering with us. And we will be right back.
At BTSADV, every survivor deserves to feel seen, supported, and safe. But we can't do this work alone. When you volunteer with BTSADV, you're not just giving your time, you're giving hope. Hope to survivors rebuilding their lives. Hope to children who've lost a parent to domestic violence. Hope to families healing after trauma. We have volunteer opportunities for every skill set. Support line volunteers who answer calls with compassion. Graphics creators who build our educational posts and campaigns. Editors who turn podcasts into powerful short-form videos. Social engagement volunteers who help keep our pages safe. Podcast moderators who guide conversation and protect survivors live. Website editors who help publish survivor stories and resources. And video reel creators who bring awareness to millions. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need special degrees. You just need a willingness to show up with courage and empathy. We train you. We support you. We walk with you every step of the way. If you've ever wanted to make a difference, if you've ever said, I wish I could help, this is your moment. Join our volunteer team. Stand with survivors. Be part of something life-changing. BTS ADV, where survivors find connection, support, and hope.
Okay, we're back. So, Amanda, just as we come back, let's talk a little bit about um, how living under that kind of constant threat, under coercive control, how it changes how our brain functions. So, like when you were in the middle of that, what do you think were the main changes for you?
Um, my reality wasn't reality. So I was too caught up in the threat of what wasn't even being presented to me was going to happen in the future, and I obsessed over it, which made me more submissive, more at his need, his beck and need, more apologetic, more where he needed me to be to do whatever he was doing behind my back easier. And I truly believe that. I know that it has affected me to this day of how I deal with trauma and stress to this day. Personally, Tara's seen it. Um, I can't tell the difference anymore between reality of a real threat and a just a threat, like just a someone can tell me, Amanda, this is going to happen tomorrow, and I will 100% believe it's going to happen tomorrow without any kind of concrete proof. That is something that I've had to teach myself to work through because being in an abusive relationship with someone for years that was able to make you believe certain things that were going to happen with no concrete proof rewires the way that you perceive any kind of threat. And it could be from anybody, even people you trusted. And even it gets worse when it is from people, you trust, or because we all know things. Sometimes, we always talk about the telephone game, right? We were taught that when we were younger. Let's do the telephone game and then say the one thing, and once it goes around, we have that in life. But to me, if everything is not some concrete and proof for me, I can't, and that's very hard for people that go through that abuse. They can't understand what's reality and what's a threat. It just blends. And as a mother, it was very hard for me to self care for myself because I was always living in flight or flight. I was always afraid that someone was going to be at my door, that I was going to mess up somewhere. But I also didn't want to make him mad. I didn't want to make him, excuse me, I didn't want, so then I stayed more in the abusive relationship because I felt if I left him, it would anger him. And then he would do more stuff of calling, police on me or CYS or certain things and making up threats and feeling like he would be believed more than I would. And he would always use because I did not have my driver's license and I was a stay at home mom. They're not going to give you your children because you don't have your license nor do you have a job. I had my license and I have a job. So,
Well, that's the same thing we're talking about here, right? We use CPS as the example, but this is the same thing. Because you don't have this, I have this control.
mhm, yeah,
So stay in your place.
yep, yep,
It's a way of shaming and guilting you on an unimaginable level. It just totally rips away your confidence. It becomes paralyzing
it
sometimes.
does. It does because he held over things. And as a mother, she said, the ultimate threat is losing your children.
Mhm.
That's my life. That's a part of me. That's my heart. I can't breathe without my children. I know that sounds dramatic, but they are my children. And when they were that young, especially, he was doing this when they were toddlers. Now they're teens. And I couldn't imagine any either different now. But when they're that little and they're so dependent on you for everything, and you're having someone threatening, that's when you're just like, okay, you can threaten me, but when the threat of my children is a whole other. And he knew that. He knew that.
Of
He knew that.
course.
And that's so gross that the father of your children would even want to make, you know, it's gross. But that's a form of course of abuse, and course of control like that They will find the things that they know that scares you the most, that will control your mind. And he knew me well enough to know how my brain worked when I
Right.
went kind of panics, because he's seen it when we lived, our life together. We were together for over a decade. So unfortunately, he knew certain quirks of my mental health and how I handled certain problems. And that's also insidious, right, Tara? For them to take, things that you can't control against you.
Yes. Well, it's all about the control. It's, and changing, they're wanting you to change your behavior to fit that narrative so that they can continue to work in the dark and hide what they're really doing and what's really going on. And
Hmm.
because you, as a parent, are hiding in this dark representation, your children are following suit. And that's what they want. So that nobody ever finds out. So it's all kept in secret. I mean, I read not that long ago over 15 million children here in the US, 15 million, live in homes that have, domestic violence present every year. That's a lot of children being exposed. And they're seeing these scenarios of how um, parents control one another with those kind of threats and that they're being used in the middle.
Hmm.
And it affects them
It does.
in ways you can't even imagine. If it affects us this way, imagine the guilt they feel. Because there's a lot of children I know. As a child, I internalized everything as my fault. If I was being used in some sort of way in the talk that was going on, well, that's my fault, and so that guilt and fear extenuates down even into our children.
Yes. 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 It
Someone
does. I
keeps
mean, personally,
sending you to report you. They have that kind of power. It's not concerned. Your children are hearing it, and your children are going, well, I must have caused this because I didn't keep my room clean, because I didn't. That's a horrible way to have to live.
absolutely.
So,
I think that children carry so much, right? In that. But then when they start carrying that to where they're like, you know, my father doesn't have the best interest for me. This is to hurt my mom. I'm a weapon for my mom. I'm a weapon. We are pawns to him. We are sort, and that is such a horrible feeling when it starts to get to that for children, where they're like, are you looking out for my well-being, or are you looking out for your just, like, your what you think is your justice, your righteousness? And that's, think about that, like being a child and like going, but that's not happening, that's not, my mom's not, and then having to realize when you get older that this was a, you were being basically weaponized towards your own parent.
yeah,
And again, mothers, we understand and we love our children, and I mean, we're complete, but it's enough for them to look back, and women do it too. Women do it too. I've seen it on both sides more than me and Tara would probably like to even admit, because as a mother, I can't even imagine, but I've seen it where it gets caught up and these children become weapons in both sides. They're like a source of both parents, just throwing these children back and forth at each other like a boomerang. Um, Unfortunately, it does take a toll on them when they get older too, and how they perceive relationships and co-parenting habits and skills, and
right.
yeah.
Yeah. There's a huge gap in the system. So it makes it extremely sad. that's why so much, depends on when coercive control is equated into your abuse. That's why things like lethality and risk assessments are so vital for states and our first responders and stuff to use, because it helps show the patterns more widely as to what is happening, what's going on. And then it's just not the hearsay of what's coming from either person. It gives them tools, and I think more first responders definitely need to use that. It gives them more tools to be able to assess it when you go, does he abuse your pets? Does this happen too? Does this happen too? Does this happen too? It gives a more clear line as to what's going on, what's really happening. It shows the patterns way more so that I think the system needs to take that in, equate it as to what kind of charges, what's moving forward, and states that are starting to use that are considering using it actually right now, with coercive control into part of that pattern within their custody cases. I think it will make a big difference.
Oh yeah, I agree. I agree. It's just, I think that we as survivors also, and even if you are dealing with this now, don't feel bad for going through this. Don't feel bad for believing this. Don't feel bad. Your brain has been, they conditioned you long before they started these threats, because they wouldn't start the threats unless they believe that it would somewhat affect you into the way they can control you. So that is something I really beat myself up for years over that, and I had to learn that that was something that my brain was rewired and I couldn't control. And that's something that we have to learn to give ourselves grace when we go through these instances, is to remind yourself that not everything is real that is posed as a threat. Unfortunately, when you live this life where you're always in a 24-hour, what you feel is a threat all the time with an abuser, you just can't tell the blurred lines at times, and it gets better, but it does still very much cause a lot of internal self-doubt and certain things. And don't feel bad for having to deal that and to still deal with yourself in that way, because I will tell you personally, you just got to go through the motions. And unfortunately, that's the only way you're going to get through it. Personally, for myself, I know, with that, it rewires you. It
Mhm.
takes something that you learned from childhood on how you would deal with stuff that was scary, that you were taught from your parents, right? Or your elders at that time,
Yes.
and then you start learning life differently once that happens.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back to see what some of the comments and
Yeah,
questions
we're
are.
getting some stuff rolling in here. So I think, okay. We have, I'm trying to get up here to get some, and I just paused. I just froze. Okay. We got Michelle here saying, please interview me. My story is insane. Michelle, if you would like to be on the podcast, we do have an application that you can fill out, and we'll have it posted here in the comments. And we will definitely, I personally am the one that sets up times to do the interviews and just kind of go over your story. So yeah, absolutely. And that is anybody that wants to be on the podcast. We
Yeah,
do have an
anybody who
application,
wants
and
to
we
do
do.
that, or if you know somebody, or somebody who has had a really great experience, a really great advocate who's written a book, anything like that, want to be a part of the podcast, there's an application on the website for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tracy, I left my abusive husband over 5 years ago when our son was murdered. I'm sorry, Tracy. And that was the best thing I've ever did. Stayed with him for over 30 years, and I couldn't take it anymore. I can imagine. I can imagine. I can imagine.
That's so hard. Yeah.
I mean, a loss of a child is enough in this world, but then to be in an abusive relationship, yeah, I can imagine where that had to go real fast for you to be able to properly grieve and take care of yourself. So I I'm so sorry for your loss, but I commend you for being so brave to take that next step in that time and to reclaim your life so that you were able to heal properly. Because that,
Yes, you are
yeah, you deserve
amazing.
that. You
Mhm.
deserve that. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Let's see here. Okay. Michelle. Strangled and presented a video of the entire assault. He was walking freely with multiple protective violation orders. Unfortunately, I think you know about that, Tara. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's sickening.
It to me, unfortunately, you think a paper trail would be enough for them. It's
Recordings
unfortunate.
ain't enough, paper trailing them enough. Sometimes with some of the law enforcement, they just,
Excuse me.
yeah, you just got to keep plugging at it. Just keep everything because you don't know when you finally get somebody who'll listen.
No. We got Sunshine Rose. Several years ago, my oldest niece was a baby. My brother turned the tables a little bit. My brother caught my sister and sister off the bed with another man, so he left her. But he didn't take my niece. He just left her there with her mama, and he didn't want to go through the court and fight and go through the court system. I get it. I get it too because men get scared. Because I'm going to tell you, the system is made for women when it comes to certain things as that aspect, and women can manipulate too, right? And they can say, so I get it, and I feel for that circumstance because he has every right to his child. He was, he wasn't in the wrong there. It's hard. It is
Yeah.
hard. I do think it men should feel as much as we say before, and we talk about this a lot. Either men or women should feel freely to not feel intimidated to be able to see their children and leave a relationship. And I
Yeah.
think that that's kind of what we're talking about here. We should be able to leave a relationship and not fear our parenting and our rights will go away. I guess is what
Exactly. Exactly.
we'll say here. Um, so let's see what else we got here. My computer is slow because of the ice outside. um, we're just defrosting. Apparently, so is my computer. Um, Kayla, thank you for sharing your story. So many victims of DV and children have been threatened this way and completely and utterly failed, abused using the system against us. Yes, absolutely. No, like honestly, you're right, Kayla. It is. It's so important to talk about because this was something. I mean, I've been out of my abusive relationship since 2017, so it's been a moment. But I can still feel this like this is yesterday. And I think that this is, and Tara too can believes that this is something important that women need to understand that this is being used when it's not even actively being used against us. This is something that we are made to believe. My ex-husband used to take a baseball bat to break my boys' toys, excuse me, and told us that he was going to do this with my father and nephew, which was 1 years old. He used to make those type of threats to keep us isolated from friends and family.
That is so sad.
And the
And
children's toys,
yes.
I think I would have probably been arrested at that point. I am so sorry.
It gets me all the time. I see some stuff over on TikTok and stuff, how people like through the holidays, people kept making comments about how their abuser would get rid of like the kids' ornaments that they made because it wasn't aesthetically pleasing and stuff like that. I'm like, what in the world is wrong with people? Why do they have to put children in these
Oh
positions?
my
You
god!
know?
I'll
And
put their little sticks on my tree. Oh my god!
it's just so sad. It's sad that children have to experience these things. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It to me, I can't even fathom some of this stuff. So we got Stephanie. You guys are really coming in today. We love this.
Yes.
Stephanie, I recently got out of a kind of a situation of strangulation abuse. mental, emotional, and I hope the whole world will be able to talk about different ways of women getting out of abuse. I live in Japan. Meanwhile, here in Japan, they are very protective, and the PO is super serious that he is not criminally charged the right way. I wish every country would just know to put those abusive men behind bars right away. Stephanie, I'm so sorry you're going through that. And yes, it is. Unfortunately, it seems like it's not only, a US thing, it's also a culture kind of. Different countries are dealing with it in different ways of where it's not even being taken seriously, where women are being told just to be quiet, and that, that's scary because everybody deserves justice. I know I would have been arrested for the toys. Is that what you're?
Yes,
as a mother, I'm thinking. I mean, my baby's toys.
don't touch my children's stuff. There was
You want to
wild how, and I was one of those women. I have to admit, you could do virtually anything to me, but don't touch the kids. Don't touch the kids' things. Don't mess with the kids, because then I was going to come unwound.
Yes. See, that's what brought my crazy out, was when the kids had to feel any kind of justice from his anger. If their toys got broken, if anything was ruined for them, if any of their food
That
was
may
ruined.
be a discussion for another podcast.
Yeah, I think we might need to do that too. Like when mom,
because I think a lot of us do that. A lot of us kind of go through that that scenario. I know some survivors don't, but there are some.
And please don't feel bad if you don't. I mean, trust me, there was certain things that but this.
Certain things, just because you didn't endure them doesn't mean we know this as survivors. Some part of our story always connects. Some part of us went through that same exact experience, but it doesn't make certain things you do or don't go through one worse than the other.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. So, wonderful. Oh, okay, wonderful. So, Amanda, what's the final thing you would like to say on this topic to our audience before we close out?
First and foremost, this is probably one of the things that I talk about most in my abuse that I really struggle with is having to sort out the reality to truth. And please know, just because someone has made you credit your reality does not mean that you don't know what your reality is, or that you are not credible, or you're not smart, or you're not strong, or you're not capable to make smart decisions down the road. You're impaired at that time when this stuff is happening. And even though, as I say now, I struggle with it personally, Tara can tell you, I can still tell you that I know I'm not in the right place. I can name it. I can point at it and get through it. So please know that if you're struggling with this and you just lost, you just came out of abuse and you're dealing with your abuser in court, or you're actively in abuse, or you're years down the road and you're still finding yourself having a hard time to deal with what reality is and what the truth is, it's not your fault. That's all I can say. It's not your fault. This is something that your brain never knew that it would have to deal with, and is now trying to make sense of its new reality and protecting you. And it's so funny because it's saying that's your brain alerting you, and it's trying to protect you. But you also know how to protect you too. So, that being said, just always trust in what you feel is best in those moments, and feel free to look up things and to call, advocates, and to reach out to people like us through BTSADV if you are ever going through like that. In our support line, just ask one of our advocates, is this credible? That's okay. It's okay, because guess what? They're more in a sane mind than you are at that moment, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're able to rationalize it, call a friend, a family member, an advocate that you trust, someone, and verify it. Talk it out. Don't sit there in silence and stew in it, because it will just bring you into an area that they want you in, and that's called isolation. And you can do that not only physically, but emotionally. And that can be a really scary place.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We thank you for being here, everyone. So, what I want to say in closing is let's go back to the woman that I opened with, right? Nothing ever happened in that scenario. There wasn't a report, not a knock, not a case, but her behavior changed, right? Her world got smaller, her fear got louder, controlled, doesn't need witnesses, and it doesn't need paperwork. It just needs fear. And naming that matters because silence is where control thrives, right? So, as we wrap up, I want to bring back to why this conversation matters. It's because abuse doesn't always look like a crisis. It doesn't always come with sirens or all that paperwork or proof, like we were discussing today here in the audience. A lot of times it looks like fear or silence or someone shrinking for their own safety. And when we don't name that, survivors start questioning themselves instead of questioning the control that's being used against them. And so, if this episode resonates with you, if you saw something in yourself in it, or you thought someone else, a thought of someone else while you were listening, please share because these conversations reach people who don't yet have the language for what they're experiencing. If you're a survivor and you want to connect with us, share your story or submit a topic for a future episode, you can email us at podcast@thesilencedv.org. If you want to support us financially, you can donate or go into our shop over on our BTS ADV store on our website. Every dollar helps us continue survivor centered education, advocacy, support, and it helps this podcast be independent and uncensored. So, we're also actively looking for podcast sponsors at this time, individuals or organizations who align with survivor safety, education, and empowerment. And if that's you, or if you know someone who would be a good fit for that, again, you can find more information about that over on our website. And if you want more real-time conversations, education, and truth-telling, you can find us on TikTok at BTSADV7, where we air our Narc Diaries episodes on Wednesdays and Sunday evenings. We talk openly about narcissistic abuse, people submitting what their narcissist said to them, what coercive control looks like, things like that. People, the things people don't really say out loud. Some of those really throw me every week. So, finally, if you're listening and you need support, our BTS ADV support line is available 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. The number and everything is in the comments and description. If you don't have the perfect words, you don't have to explain everything over there. Just reach out to us. Somebody is there to listen and hold your hand, provide resources. It's not a crisis line, but we are there to help you try to find the resources in your own community. And we thank you for being here and for listening. And we'll see you next week on Through the Eyes of Survivors. So, we hope you're enjoying this episode of Through the Eyes of Survivors. We wanted to pause for a moment and let you know that Through the Eyes of Survivors has a shop now open. And this is a great way for you to not only help survivors of domestic violence, but also let everyone know that you will not be silent about this important cause. From t-shirts to bags to coffee mugs, we have so much to choose from. To grab your swag, head to our store at breakthesilencedv.org. That's store.breakthesilencedv.org. We can't say enough about how much we appreciate all that the community does to help support us and this organization. So we hope you've enjoyed this episode. and continue to subscribe to future episodes.